So I just realized, newbie mistake from the video aspect. Everything I recorded today, and includes the modification to the side table, I didn't have my audio plugged in properly. So all I'm gonna have is my very bad audio on in camera. So yeah, sorry about that. Live and learn. Hello, and welcome to Outland Woodworks. My name is Shane, and today we're going to talk about installing the left wing on the Harvey 110 S52P. Let's go. Step 5.4.3, if you're following along in the book there, on installing the left wing for this table saw. Now I skipped this step initially on purpose, specifically for this reason, because you have one of two options if you also get, or in the future want to get, the ST-1500, the sliding crosscut sled. So the two options you have are either install the wing or leave this wing off, cut this rail off, and install that, the 1500. And I'm not too keen on cutting off that rail. I definitely want to use the sled. So today what I'm going to look at is doing a little fabrication work on this small extension here. We are going to take all this out and get some measurements and do some drilling and some tapping and move it from there. So, okay, so the first thing we want to do is get this table out of here. We're going to leave the ST-1500 over there for a minute. I do want to preface all of this with the leaving this off, cutting that off, installing the sliding table here is per the manufacturer's recommendations. If you attempt to do what I'm going to attempt to do here, you do this completely at your own risk and possibly even voiding some parts of your warranty. I can't imagine it would void the whole thing, but I'm not the manufacturer. They may elect to, so you take that risk. If you're not comfortable drilling into metal, you don't have to use a tap. You can use a bigger drill bit and do a through bolt on it. But you do all this again at your own risk. I take no responsibility for just showing you how I am doing. Okay, so right now, this is backwards, so we want to flip that around. And this is the way it would be installed. There are 3 bolts already in here. We're going to remove those. It's a flat washer and a lock washer on each of them. They are threaded and on the table. Back here out of the way. In all fairness, this is not my original idea. I did see one person that had done this. They didn't show it specifically. They just mentioned that they did it. I haven't seen anybody else, but I haven't seen in a while, so there could be others that have done it as well. So I do not take credit for the originality of this idea. only that I'm doing it and going to show how I did it. So make sure my blanket here is out of the way. What I want to do is pull this all the way up to the edge. I'll move the camera angle here in a minute. So two things. We want to make sure or get as close to coplanar here as possible and with the ends. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use these marks to transfer onto the outside of this wing. So let me set this up a little better and get right back to you. Okay, so now that we've got this a little better set up, what I ended up doing is I pulled the moving blanket back. I grabbed the paper that was on top of this and I put it between the table and this piece so this piece doesn't scratch up my table. And I got these very close to perfect. You can fiddle with it until you think it's good enough for you. And there's a lot of ways you can do this. I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a metal fabricator by any means. I'm just a woodworker, but I'm comfortable doing this. Worst case scenario, I trash the wing and I end up having to cut that off. Another worst case scenario, I do all this and decide that I don't like it, the sliding table being way out here. Fine, because I'm drilling these in the same place, I can just take this wing out and put it over there. So that's why we're electing to do it. It's better than it ended up in a scrap yard or something of that nature. So for this, I'm using a steel rule, a scribe to scratch the surface of the metal, and a machinist square. And this doesn't have to be perfect. I've noticed in almost every part I've put together here, there's a little bit of play, a little bit of wiggle room. So the first thing we're going to do is mark the center lines of these three holes on the short wing. And I'm going to do that by just eyeballing the center of the hole. And a little scribe mark there. Same with this one. A little scribe mark there. And this one. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just got to be pretty close. And I'm going to line my square up on the top. With that line, I'm going to put my head in the way here for just a second while I get to that line. Okay. And then up here, and this is roughly in the middle, it's a little bit below center. And I'm going to put a mark here. Okay. I'm just going to repeat that on down. Okay, well, I got that. Now we need our top to bottom. And the way I was thinking about doing this, I'm actually going to change my mind a little bit here. I'm going to grab another tool. You may or may not have this. You can use a steel rule to do the same thing. But because I have to have it on hand, I'm going to grab a set of calipers. I apparently like on height. And make sure that I am very close on that as well. Find my mark, which is right here. And this is about a 32nd lower from the top. So I'm glad I decided to check that. Yep. So we're going to remark that, which I should have done that way to begin with, but hey, we're trying something new. This also moves it more in line with those little stain rings that are on the top already. Well, if I can get this one to sit there long enough for me. Okay. So we are going to run with that, and hopefully we get it close enough with the wiggle room that we are just fine. If not, risk, no gain, right? So let's get this moved over to our drill press. You could do this by hand if you want, but I also want to find the screws in this box that are used for mounting it to this table, find out what thread they are and if it makes sense to tap this or if I should just drill through. So see you here in a second. Okay, so now that we have our marks, we have one for each of the 3 holes. We put down, saving some of that paper, it's good. You go metal on metal. Use some 3-in-1 oil and some 15/64 bits. What I found was I could not find any screws in the S-1500 kit, so I'm assuming that they want you to use the bolts that came with the saw. Now doing this way, of course, we can't do that. We need extra bolts. So there were some M8 by 1.25 bolts for the phenolic table that I'm not using, that I'm going to use instead. And I do have a tap for that, and it's in an inexpensive kit that I picked up just to have around, and I'll have a link for that below. And the 17/64 bits are as close as we can get to 6.75 millimeter in an imperial standard, and they should do just fine. And I'll leave a link for those as well. Hey guys, future me here. I did find out that the sliding table does have the bolts to mount that to the table. They were buried underneath the long portion of the table, and I didn't completely unpack it, and I should have. So as far as using the bolts that I did have with the phenolic, I'm putting them back in the bag, and I'm going to be using the table mount screws provided with the ST-1500. They are the M8 125s. They fit perfectly. They're even a little bit shorter, which is even better. So I just wanted to chime in and let you know that I did find them. So we are going to oil it up and start her up and get to drilling. Run about 1200 RPM. Do have this clamp down. It's going to take our time. Bit do the work. Once it dries out, glasses on. Right there at the end now. Alright, so now we're going to clean this up, and we're going to repeat that same step for the 3 pieces left, and then we'll come back when we tap this out. So we'll see you in a minute. Okay, now that we've got everything kind of resituated and cleaned up a little bit, we need to tap all of these holes. And of course I left my 3-in-1 oil sitting on the other side of the room. Again, this is an M8 by 125, which is the bolt that we have. So we are going to lube this up a little, help the cutting process. And we are going to tap these holes. And I will leave a link in the description for this inexpensive tap and die set. started there. Back it out. Just give her a little more for good measure. Again, I'm not a machinist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm simply a woodworker that has a dangerous curiosity for such things. So I'm sure I'm doing plenty of this incorrectly. I'm basically going to run this until it feels good. And that's feeling pretty good there. Little final rundown just for the clean out. Just a little tension coming up because I don't want to cross cut my threads. I'll wipe that off. And then we are going to blow out the little chips here and see how this fits now. Bolt. Again, in case the camera didn't catch it, these are the bolts for the phenolic tops that I did not use. Phenolic tops, however you prefer to pronounce it. Like a glove. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So, now we're just going to repeat the process by tapping these other two holes and cleaning those out, fitting them in. And then we'll move it all back over there and get to putting things together. Alright, now we've got off the drill press and brought it over here. Everything's tapped out. We took a metal file, we cleaned up just a little bit on top, make sure there's no burrs or anything there. And they look really good. You can verify that. Get it pretty squared up here. And these bottom holes are slightly larger. So, we're looking really good on that. Get the centers. And they're not going to be perfect. Again, I'm not a machinist. This is just me as a woodworker trying to solve a problem. And if it doesn't work, well, I've got 3 holes in the side of the table that I'm not going to use anyway. So, you know, again, you do all this at your own risk. Take your time. If you don't have these bolts, again, they're M8 by 125, and I think these specific ones are 35 millimeters long. But they really don't need to be that long. You may want to match up everything and determine what length you do want. That's just what I had left over from the phenolic tops. There's still some more of a different kind of bolt over there. I'm not sure if they're the same thread size or not. But I didn't use them because I didn't install that. I had them, so I'm using these. Now they will have too many parts on them. These have 2 flat washers, a lock washer, and a nut on them. I'm only going to need 1 flat washer. I may or may not put the lock washer on it. Probably not. I don't know if it's necessary. Or if it will really do that much good there. So with that in mind, we are now going to brace up the same way we put our other wing extensions on. If you haven't seen that, check back my other videos and you'll be able to see me do that. Where it's basically putting 2 boards up here to hold the weight of this while we get the bolts in and get everything aligned and get it nice and coplanar on top. We'll bolt that up. Alright, so we have our boards in place now to support the weight of this small wing that we're going to put on. So I'm going to reach over here and grab that and slide it over here into place. And again, these bolts, these are not the ones from this phenolic table. These are the ones that came in the table saw already. They were just finger tight. Back those out. We'll use those to attach this table. And we're going to use the other ones to attach the ST-1500. Alright, so let's get that over here. I'm just putting these finger tight at the moment. The side's quite a bit low. So overall, this is a pretty easy process. It took me, if I don't count the video setup and everything in between, 30 minutes max. Again, I'll repeat, I'm not a machinist. I don't claim to be a machinist. There are probably 1,000 ways to do what I just did, and I probably did the worst of the 1,000 to get it done. But that's what I had available to me. That's the working knowledge I had with it, so that's what I did. You do whatever you feel comfortable with. If you don't feel comfortable with it, maybe you got a buddy that does. If you don't, then I just wouldn't recommend messing with it, or take it to a machine shop and talk to them about it, because you don't want to mess something up so drastically that you really end up with nothing usable. So just be careful with it, but have fun. It's your tool. You know, get it the way you like it. And that's why we do this. We do this because we love what we do. We like the tools that we use, and however you decide to do your tool is completely up to you. So we'll see you in the next video. We're talking about the table, the sliding table. With that, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed any of this or thought any of it was useful. And if you have questions, ask below. I will answer what I can. Again, I'm not a machinist, so I'm going to tell you what I think, and that's going to be pretty much where it ends. Maybe someone else that is a machinist can tell you better than I can. But we will catch you on the next video. Thanks. Have a great day.